Thank you for staying with us on the Pulse. Now time for the sports. I'm Gary Al Smith. And a couple of seconds ago, you saw the promo for Return of the Royal Storm, the hotline documentary that will be showing to you before Isaac Dogbe takes to the ring again to hopefully reclaim his title. And that's what we'll be talking about. The WBO Super Bantamweight Contest, Part 2, if you like, with Emmanuel Navarrete. In studio with me is Hans Mensah Ando of our team to give us an idea of where we are in the countdown. Hans, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary.
So where are we?
Oh, okay. So we are counting down, obviously. I think it's appropriate to begin the analysis with Nehu.
Nehu.
And of course, we all saw the first fight and how it went. Dogbe admitted that he made mistakes, specifically in underrating or underestimating his opponent, and had an absolute shocker. I don't remember the last time I saw a proper Ghanaian boxer. I'm using the word proper because Isaac Dogbe, for all intents and purposes, has shown that he was right up there with the very best in the world in his weight class. And for him to have been battered in the manner that he was battered, you know, was not a pretty sight. But hopefully he's come home, he's corrected those mistakes. He says he's corrected those mistakes. We hope that that indeed is the truth. He
had a press conference here in Accra to speak ahead of the bout on the 11th of May. And he did say that this time, Navarrete is not going to find the same Dogbe he saw last time.
Was Navarrete my toughest fight? It has to be one of my toughest fights due to lack of preparation. You know, like I said, a lot of things that happen were not in my control. You know, when you get injury, I don't make the injuries happen. You know, there are certain things that will happen that I cannot control it. It happens naturally. What do we have to do? We have to, you know, find ways and other means to try and, you know, ensure that those things do not happen anymore. But when somebody gets ill, that's also not out. It's also not in my hands. So, like I said, it's all about timing. It's all about, you know, you knowing how to handle yourself, how to handle your affairs, and I mean, you could say yes. Maybe I did underestimate Navarrete a little bit due to the fact that, like I said, I was hopeful. You know, that I was relying on my other attributes when things were not going too well. You know, so it's part of it. 2018, from 2017 through to 2018, all my fights has been by knockouts, if you check my record. So when it gets to a point, you know, sometimes you feel that, okay, though I may not be in the best physical shape of my life, maybe I can rely on this. And that's what happened. You know, I can rely on my skill. But, you know, sometimes you need the skill and the stamina and the strength. They all work hand in hand. You cannot work on one and leave the other. You know, that's a lesson that I've learned. So, and that's one thing that my father seemed to correct.
Lots of talk about lessons. And on the 11th of May, Hans, do you have the feeling that this guy really wants it? You can tell, can't you?
Well, there's one thing wanting it, and another thing, you know, actually being able, you know, to get it. And here's why I probably have to be as blunt as I possibly can. If you look at how the first fight went, if you look at the sheer gap, you know, the magnitude of that defeat, it's a bit difficult for me to see how Dogbe is going to make up that gap, because he started round one, I remember very well, by pressing, fighting on the front foot. And then I think he realized that Navarrete had too much firepower, and so he began to retreat. And then in the middle rounds, when he realized that the fight was getting away, he again started going on the front foot and started walking into punches, because Navarrete could afford to throw from a distance. On the other hand, Dogbe needed to get really close to be able to land anything meaningful. And so you had a situation where Navarrete stands at a distance, lands, Dogbe tries to close that gap and walks into punches. So it makes it very, very difficult. The disparity in size between Navarrete and Dogbe is very telling. And it was a difference between the first fight and the second fight. What makes it even more difficult for Dogbe is that Navarrete knows how to utilize that advantage. Unlike Otaki, you know, Navarrete is a Mexican. He won't retreat. I mean, technically he's a very good boxer as well. Dogbe is built to knock out opponents. And so for me, one of two scenarios is going to play out. If Isaac Dogbe is going to win, it has to be via knockout. And that is why I give him a puncher's chance. I don't see Isaac Dogbe winning on the scorecard by virtue of by virtue of the size disparity, because Navarrete will only need to stand at a distance, throw punches, and he will land them.
Sure.
Dogbe has to close that gap.
Basic loss
exactly. And in trying to close the gap, he's going to be walking into punches. So, I mean, it's straight for Isaac Dogbe. If he wants to regain his title, he has to knock him out. Interesting.
Thank you, Hans, for your analysis. And that should make it interesting. Like Hans started the discussion, he said he'll begin with Neho. For Isaac Dogbe's sake, we hope that is what is going to happen on the 11th of May. I'm Gary Al Smith, and that's the sport for now.